So I'm now in Great George Street. I got here a bit late because of one thing and another to do with the cab this morning, and I'm sitting in Great George Street, and I know that the police possibly weren't playing ball today. So wherever that order has come from, who knows, but it looks as if they're still not playing ball on Parliament Square. But what really, really riles me is the continued apathy that this trade possesses. It's really difficult, I think, sometimes to understand, and I speak from obviously my own personal experience. I find it very, very difficult to understand how cab drivers don't know about what's going on in the town that they work in and in the trade that they work within in that town, because they must surely talk to one another wherever they go to eat. I can understand that there are a lot of lone wolves in this trade. That's been proved anyway over the last 5 years at least. But as things stand, the level of apathy and the increasing level of apathy, I know there are certain people out there that I know that are still on get. And when I have to get out of the taxi, my own taxi, and walk up to at least 3 cab drivers today who are stuck in the traffic and wondering why they're stuck in traffic when they got a passenger on board, and I go up to them and I say, to be honest mate, I think you're heading into trouble here. Oh, why's that? Well, because, you know, the protests this week. What? Yeah, protests all week. And then you get a mixture of reactions. The last one actually went, oh, as if to say, oh, bloody cab drivers, doing it again, are ya? You're one, mate. You're a cab driver just like me. I know you're a 7-7, you've only been out a couple of years, but doesn't matter. You're part of this. This is your livelihood that they are trying to water down. This is your livelihood that they are messing with. Forget all the rhetoric that the likes of Dan Brown and the rest of the Uber clean cut image people, and I use that term loosely, suddenly got shoved in front of the cameras saying that to the people of London, pleading, this is your Uber. This is your Uber. You can't let it go. Think of the 40,000 people that could lose their jobs if Uber goes from this city. And it's gone up to Prime Minister level now. When has that ever happened? When has the Prime Minister ever worried about something like this situation that we're in now? It obviously means something to a lot of the people involved in the Tory party. There's obviously a lot of fingers in the pie somewhere. I'm not going to even guess that, because I pretty much know that, like a lot of people know that. But a lot of people must drive around with their head up their arse to not know what's going on in this city. Drive around with so blinkered, it's unbelievable. It annoys the hell out of me to think that if my wife actually sometimes informs me in front of me knowing what's going on, because she bothers to find out, and she bothers to go through the news items, and she bothers to go on social media and find out what's going on in the trade that her husband has been in for 17 years. So when they start going on about 40,000 people possibly going to be put out of work, no one ever mentions the 365-year-old trade, of which 24,000 self-employed men who spent anywhere between a year, 18 months to 3, 4, 5 years upwards to earn the right to apply for hire on the streets of this city. No one mentions them. And no one mentions the fact that really the workforce behind the whole cab trade is probably double that. So it probably exceeds the 40,000 that these people go on the telly and talk about. These 40,000 largely unemployable people. They're pitting it against the 50,000+ people in the London taxi trade who would lose their livelihood if, what it seems to me, TFL and the ones that they are colluding with get their way. It's a very, very sad state of affairs. And if this is the last way for this trade, this noble, honourable, iconic trade, to try and stand up and be counted and to say we're not prepared to take this anymore, if this is the last possible way we can do it, then we have no other choice. This has been proved. This is day 3 of a week-long set of protests. And like I said, I've been driving a cab 17 years, so I've been to a few. But the contempt that Transport for London seem to be holding us in, the lies that have been told, the questions that have been avoided, and a mayor, well, less said about him the better, I think. And a previous mayor also, and Prime Minister and Chancellor. Again, less said about them the better. If you don't know about that, go and find out. I got interviewed for London Live yesterday, and the lady posed a question about the fact that it was kind of a loaded question really, and she said that if you're trying to achieve gridlock around Marble Arch, you haven't really succeeded, have you? And two things sprung to mind, and I tried very hard to not get angry about it, because in the back of my mind I was thinking to myself, you know what, she's right, because of the whole of the cab trade, 24,000, who knows, I would expect, French style, I would expect at least 5, 6, 7,000 of those to come together and say enough is enough. If we could get 10,000, oh, unbelievable. But I would say there was probably less than 1,000 cabs there yesterday, which is why the lady who was interviewing me made her point. It was hard to answer. I had a lump in my throat when I was trying to answer it. I wanted to say, well, pretty much what my wife said earlier on, and that was, come to London most days, come to Marble Arch most days, and it's gridlocked. Because through TFL and the fact that they created a cash cow with the private hire situation, and the numbers rose from 52, 53,000 to over 100,000 in less than 4 years. Is it any wonder that our streets are so congested? Transport for London don't seem to give a damn about that. And in turn, this affects everyone. It's affected me, it's affected all my colleagues, everyone I know, and we speak about it often. So that lump in my throat hasn't gone away, and it's still there today. And when I talk about it, I think of my wife, and I think of my children, and I think of my friends, my colleagues in this trade who have struggled hard to make a living. And when you feel like you've earned the right as a boy from a council estate, like the majority of the cab trade are, local boys, council estate boys who've done something good with their life, and when you get into a position where you can earn a decent living, why shouldn't you be allowed to do that? Why shouldn't you be allowed to, and be given the privilege to earn a decent living? Surely you've earned the right to do that. Just like anybody who's earned the right to earn a decent living, whether it's a plumber or a plasterer or an electrician or someone who works for themselves, who has worked very, very hard and long, and it's cost them a lot of money to get to that position, only to find out that their position is under threat by a governing body who seems to want to water you down, water the whole job down. A friend of mine said something once to me, and I'll finish with this, and I've made the point since, and that is that when he was growing up, same as I was, where I grew up there were a lot of cab drivers, and the thought of the fact that they were cab drivers and they'd done the knowledge was really impressive. It was an amazing thing. You're a cab driver, God, can I see your badge? And you would aspire to be something where they'd work so hard to achieve that status. To be a cab driver was, you stood out. Somebody knew you was a cab driver. You drove a London taxi. Oh, it's fantastic, iconic. But now if you tell someone you're a cab driver, they sort of go, oh, it's nothing anymore. It feels that way. And that's what Transport for London and government have done to this trade. And I've got to be honest, kind of breaks my heart.